So my name is Lara Glover, and I have a question for you. What do Steve Jobs, J.K. Rowling, Walt Disney, and I have in common? So we're not going to be asking for answers just yet, but hopefully we can go through it. So I said, my name is Lara, I'm from Dublin, and I work at Facebook. I've had the privilege to work at one of the best tech companies in the world for the last 6 years, but I certainly didn't start out that way. In fact, my first part-time job was when I was working in Blarney Woolen Mills in Nassau Street in Dublin. And yes, it's as exciting as it sounds. But I've also worked as a cashier, I've worked as a waitress, I've worked in data entry, I've worked as tech support, I've worked as a photographer and a film extra, all before I got anywhere near into going into a tech industry. And ultimately, why I started going into getting a part-time job was because I love to learn. I was really keen to get out into the world, to understand what it was like to be in a working experience. Yeah, hence the nerd. And yeah, so that's kind of been what's driven my job choices and what I've done and what I've decided not to do ever since. So my first career job in tech was when I worked at Yahoo. I worked in a search marketing editor in the UK market. It was great pay, it was great opportunity, and it was within my home country. I didn't have to emigrate, which was amazing. I should have been set, and yet after 3 months, I found myself walking home and I was crying. I was so frustrated. I could not conceive that this would be what my working life would be. I now realize, looking back, that it's because that role was just so specialized that I just didn't get that flexibility to learn. I wasn't doing anything more than just this one piece. So what I did was I did a part-time degree then in the evening, and that's how I got through kind of 18 months, and I said, right, that's it, I'm good. I'm going to go on to my next glorious job, which was with my parents' company. My parents, wait for it, my parents worked for or had built their own business doing freight industry in Ireland. Again, really sexy. But for me, I saw as being like, this is an amazing opportunity where I can learn about online marketing as a whole. So it wasn't just looking at one particular piece, it was looking at the whole part. And I learned a ton in that year. I learned about online, about offline. I learned about how to do office admin. I also learned how to work with family, which if anyone here has experience of that knows exactly how tough that is. But what was the toughest part was after a while I had to turn to my parents and say, I'm not going to take the family business on. I knew in my heart that I didn't have the passion for transport and logistics, not in the same way that my dad did. Honestly, he's 79, he's still doing a degree. Like, he's a machine. But there wasn't enough of where like I couldn't have enough passion to forward this company on to have enough revenue for at least 3 families' income that would be required. So we had a heart-to-heart. I knew they wanted what was best for me. I know I wanted what was best for me, which was handy. And we said, right, it's time to move on. And that was my next learning piece. What did I want to do next was that I wanted to leave Ireland and I wanted to explore the world a bit and live and work in another country. So I went to Scotland, obviously. But in fairness, I packed up all my belongings in my Volkswagen Golf and I went off on my own. I didn't know anybody there. I was staying on a couch of a friend while I was getting work, and I got a job in a PR agency. I had dabbled in PR when I worked in my parents, and I thought, right, why not? I'll give this a shot. And so I rocked up on my first day, and nobody knew who I was. As in, nobody knew I had a job here. I was like, okay, this is a bit new learning that I was not expecting. It was only until somebody in IT actually verified that I had a job that I was actually able to go into the place. Might have been a tip that perhaps this wasn't a great fit. And sure enough, after 12 months, the day before my review was to come through, I was told that I was no longer needed, that I was in fact fired. Do you remember that question that I asked at the beginning? Steve Jobs, J.K. Rowling, Walt Disney, myself. We've all been fired in roles. Now, I'm not saying I'm the next Steve Jobs. I cannot pull off a polo neck to save my life. But I wish I had known then what I know now. When I was told I was fired, I felt so alone. And there'll be points where some of you may have already experienced this, others may experience this in the future. And if I can do anything, it's saying that you're not alone, it's going to be okay. And it was okay. I kept my head, I focused on the future, I didn't burn bridges, and my future turned out to be Facebook. So I applied for Facebook because I had dabbled in it when I was working at my parents' company, and I thought this would be something I could do. So 6 years on, I'm working with some of the world's largest advertisers, and I'm working with them on their business challenges, figuring out how our platform can help them achieve them. And you could argue that I could do that in any industry in the world. Why tech industry? For me, the tech industry is this unique space of between intellectual curiosity and real-world impact. And you can really only achieve that when you let go of the fear of failure. We have slogans within Facebook, but I think this is a larger piece of the tech industry, about failing harder. There was a quote from a speech by Theodore Roosevelt that was spoken at one of our conferences a few years ago, and it really resonated with me. I don't have notes for it, so I'm going to paraphrase, so bear with me. But it's called The Man in the Arena, and it goes something around the lines of, it's not the critic that counts. It's not the man who points at the person who did not do. It's about the man in the arena, the man whose face is marred with sand and dust and blood, who strives and keeps on going because there is no effort without error or shortcomings, who gives himself all to a worthy cause, and if he fails, is because he has dared to fail greatly. So my question to you, do you dare to fail greatly? Thank you.